certainly there isn't the expectation that every priest become an expert in everything and earn advanced degrees. I think it would help that if from the very beginning in the formation of seminarians, if they learned how to incorporate the findings of science and how to look to various fields for certain data that we need to have as our grounding in what we consider and what we do theology with. They need to learn that method of thinking with the church and through our faith, but drawing upon the developments and the conclusions of the various sciences. How do you keep up to date with that? That's an important thing with a busy, I'm a pastor working in a parish, and you're being pulled in many different directions. But it's I think reading is important. What kind of material is the priest in the parish reading? Is he exploring when articles are published in popular literature or in the newspapers about advances in science? The priest should be reading that article with an inquisitive mind and also be thinking, how does this touch upon our faith? Is there a message there that I need to convey to my people? Just as when I read the scriptures the week before that I'm supposed to preach on them, I always look for a phrase or a word or something that is startling, something that catches you off guard or seems rather harsh, something that provokes a question. And I would want to be sure that I address that question when I'm preaching. Otherwise, it looks like we're dancing around things and not addressing the real issues. The same thing, if we know what's going on in society and what's being discovered and say absolutely nothing about them, it looks like we're dancing around them. So it doesn't require you to be a scientist, to have a master's or a doctorate, but it does require you to be inquisitive and be willing to explore and to be kept appraised of what is happening in our world today, the discoveries in the universe. What does that say about our faith and our belief in a God who created everything and created everything good? I think it's just one more example. When we discover a new solar system, that's one point of reference that we can make in terms of how beautiful, how expansive all of creation is. And it doesn't in one way detract from the dignity of the human person.
I think it's important as far as seminarians and then as priests, involvement with their people vis-a-vis the question of science. I think it's important to remember that priests don't become scientists by having a course in science. They don't become experts in things like natural family planning by having a component on natural family planning and a course on marriage and sexuality. What they hopefully do is acquire an awareness of how these things can relate to people's lives, recognize the areas of competence they possess, but also know when they need to refer. That is to say, when they need to involve other informed, competent lay people and professionals in the process of decision-making and even in forming, in the case of, say, preparation for marriage courses or courses that might be offered in the parish in regard to planning for retirement and even looking forward to the end of life. Priests do not have to know all the medical answers to these questions, but they do need to know where those answers can be found and how their people can adequately and quickly access them. And one of the amazing things that a lot of priests fail to realize is that they already probably have the resources within their own parishes. All they need to do is look around and they will discover people who are actively involved in palliative care, in OBGYN provision of services, and they'll realize that all they need to do is ask, and they'll discover that to their delight, people will break out in practically songs of joy at the opportunity to share what they know and what they've experienced in a way that allows the component of faith, the knowledge of theology, the ability to ask the important moral questions to then be followed up by the provision of answers that allows people to say, this kind of an approach is not non-scientific. This approach that the Church invites us to embrace is actually something that many medical professionals think is reasonable, and here are some of those people, and here are some of the websites you can go to get further information.
A quote that has stuck out in my mind was something that Pierre Duhem said in 1894. Pierre Duhem was a Catholic and a physicist, And he had informed the head of the philosophy department at the Catholic Institute in Brussels that if good Catholic scholars were going to talk about science without knowing a single word of it, that the free thinkers would have fun at their expense. And he also said that in order for someone to be able to talk about science, that person needs to have 10 or 15 years experience with pure science. Now, that's striking for a number of reasons. Obviously, today, it would be unreasonable to expect seminarians to do pure science for 10 or 15 years. And today, we also have a prolific scientific literature in the libraries and in the publishing world. So what we have today is the ability for anyone to read a scientific paper, and it's as close as you can get to being in the lab with the scientist, because it's the scientist or the team of scientists in their own words telling you in very articulate terminology what they do in a laboratory and what they conclude. In my course, I want to teach the seminarians how to read the scientific papers and spare them the 10 or 15 years of practicing pure science. Teach them how to dig into the research and the scientific literature and how to navigate it in the light of faith.